Hey everyone, Cameron Eldred here, doctoral student in athletic training through Indiana State University. I apologize for the room. I am currently in a different room because mine is under construction. So I've got gym stuff in the background, if you'll just ignore that. So today we're going to be just talking a little bit about the beginnings of my research project that I will be doing through Indiana State University. The first thing that I really wanted to talk about is kind of the purpose and the specific aims of this specific project. So, many medical education programs have utilized different methods of education to improve the preparedness of their students as they become practicing clinical professionals. Athletic training has yet to invest in a singular method of education. A lot of schools kind of do their education in their own way, with a set of ground rules, I guess you could say. And what this has caused the preparedness of the students to vary between the different universities. So we don't have something that's solid, that everybody follows, that needs to happen, word for word, dot your I's, cross your T's. So perceptions of stakeholders have been observed by various studies within athletic training to understand the level of preparedness in newly certified athletic trainers. However, a lot of these studies cover generalized clinical education, environments, and no specific clinical education model was identified other than integrative being the most commonly used in education. So it's not really known how the different models of clinical education affect the preparedness of the students when moving to practice regarding interprofessional practice and decision making, as well as patient care. So basically, the proposed project is the first step in providing vital feedback on the effectiveness and efficiency of an immersion education model from the stakeholders and preceptor perceptions. So we are going to be looking at what the preceptors and stakeholders feel has benefited the students, and the preparedness of the preceptors to provide that education in a clinical immersion for those students. So to improve the clinical immersion model, vital information on the preparation of the preceptors and their perceptions of necessary changes needs to be observed. And an athletic trainer, as we all know, is a healthcare professional with unique clinical skill set that is learned through both didactic and clinical education. However, that education needs to be proficient enough that students leaving athletic training education programs are going to feel adequately prepared to begin autonomous and independent practice. So the specific aim of this is just the central hypothesis of the project is comparing the education outcomes from stakeholder perspectives of clinical immersion education, and this will allow for better training to be provided to the preceptors and preparing those students for seamless integration to clinical immersion. So what we'll be looking at is pre-immersion, so we'll be setting goals, preceptor training of educational materials, during clinical immersion time, and then post-immersion, so a debrief of the experience, preparation adequacy, feedback improvement, such. So in one, we'll examine the stakeholders' perceptions of clinical immersion and education as it pertains to the preceptors. Now, the way that we're doing this is through a qualitative approach. We're going to be using interviews, of course, that will be consensual, and what that means, for instrumentation, we're going to be using scripts. The method of interview, we're going to be using more than likely Zoom so that we can talk with this person and record our conversations, but everything, there will be no video involved so that the person can remain anonymous. That's going to be extremely important because that will allow for full feedback. That will allow for the participant to be open and honest and give us true feedback on how they feel about clinical immersion and what can be done to better prepare those preceptors to prepare the students. This conversation that we will be having will be, of course, scripted. However, the reason that we wanted to do a qualitative approach is that we want to, it will be semi-structured. So what we'll be looking for is conversation key points that can lead us to more information. We'll have a set number of questions that we need to be getting through, but we want the conversation to be open. We want it to be honest. So we won't have any different variables, as that's something that pertains more to a quantitative experimental design. As for instrumentation, we've talked about scripts, methods of interview will be through Zoom. So the last thing that we'll be looking at is going to be transcription, of course. So we will be having to pay somebody else to do that, so we'll be applying for a graduate school grant. The subjects that are going to be involved will be athletic trainers from collegiate settings who are going to participate in the study, and all participants will be given a pseudonym, of course, to protect that anonymity. This will also be done hand in hand with Anna Grimes, who is another student within the Doctorate of Athletic Training program through Indiana State. She will be looking at the opposite spectrum, so she'll be looking at the student perceptions rather than preceptor and stakeholder perceptions. So we'll be working together, recruiting, and getting our participants together. So that is kind of just the basics of the beginning of this research project. So, we've talked about the purpose and our specific aims, qualitative research design, why we're going to do it that way. We've looked at the fact that we're not going to have any variables, as well as the instrumentation and our participants. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, I'm Cameron Eldred, and thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.